Welcome back to filmmarriott.net. Today we are reviewing Postcards from London. So yes, Postcards from London today. I just want to say quickly thank you very much for subscribing. If you are a new subscriber, every Wednesday I bring you the latest interviews, although I haven't actually done any for the last couple of weeks. There are some big ones coming, especially if you're a fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. More on that in the next couple of weeks though. But first, Raj is here.
Hey Phil.
Very excited potentially about that RuPaul's Drag Race interview. I can't say anything though.
You've been keeping secrets.
Yeah, not for much longer though. So Postcards from London, we saw this at the BFI.
We did, yes.
Flare Festival 2018.
Mm-hmm.
This is a really tough one for me because I like the star, I like the director. The film was okay. Didn't blow me away.
You know what, Phil? I will have to agree with you 100%. The film was okay. It was good.
Yeah.
It was worth watching. Was I blown away by it? No. Was I entertained by it? Yes. But it was kind of middle of the road, I think.
Yeah. See, I wasn't overly entertained by it. I found it a bit boring. It lacked power. Okay. Despite a great star.
Well, let's tell them what it's about.
Yeah. So it's directed by STEVE MCLEAN, starring one of our favourites, who is Harris Dickinson.
The belle of the ball.
Who seems to be in everything at the moment. It's really weird, isn't it? It's just exploded with Harris Dickinson films and TV stuff that he's in. We're going to review Trust on another video that he stars in, which is directed by Danny Ball. But this movie is about a young man's journey into escort work in London in the 80s.
And it doesn't exactly sound as seedy as that description might be. The movie is actually very artful and very colorful. And
it's not gratuitous at all,
no,
is it?
not. It makes you think, and it's very intellectual. So I was a bit surprised and pleasantly surprised by that.
Yeah, I like the fact that it wasn't relying on the cliche of what sex is and what sex work is. It was quite poetic and quite romantic in a lot of ways.
And even having said that, it's not really what the film is really about either. It's kind of this young man. He just wants to be an artist on the bad streets of London and get his education that way. And he meets this rather intellectual, poetic group of escorts that bring him into the fold and kind of show him the way of how they do things and teach him the fine art of it.
I suppose in a lot of ways it's that story that we've seen before where somebody wants to escape suburban Essex or somewhere on the outskirts of London and go to the bright lights of the city. But it is a different film in many ways because it's an imaginary vision of London. And it's kind of timeless in a way. We saw the director, Steve McLean, at the Q&A after the movie was screened. He knew, what he wanted to look like, but it's not really an obvious film. It doesn't, it's not something that's been done before. I don't think it's quite unique.
It felt very 70s. It felt very 80s. It felt very 90s. It felt very now, actually. So it was quite interesting the way that that whole conceptual design and how it played out in the film.
Yeah.
Well, a bit on the other end of the spectrum, though. From Beach Rats to this, you've seen him kind of open up more as an actor. Maybe a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely see him growing, because my complaint about Beach Rats was it was very subdued and very quiet. And
he didn't really speak much,
a lot of hidden messages that, what's better left unsaid, that sort of thing.
Did you think it reminded you of Derek Jarman's work? Because I know that was a big influence for Steve McLean. He mentioned that at the Q&A as well. I think maybe it was the Caravaggio content of the movie. I think that reminded me of Derek Jarman, and also the kind of almost Shakespearean tone of the film. It felt very, very poetic.
I mean, it was quite interesting, that whole storyline where every time he sees this person that's Caravaggio's piece of art, or a piece of his art, he goes into a bit of an epileptic fit and passes out, and he's so moved by the beauty of the art that
he goes into the paintings.
He goes into the paintings, he passes out, and there's some people who try to cash in on that, like, ooh, he can actually verify what is real art and what is not. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if maybe there are too many messages in the movie and it didn't actually quite land the way it should have, and maybe they should have just focused on one little aspect, because you're going into it thinking it's like, a piece of queer cinema about the highs and lows of escorting, in a very cinematic tale, but you come out of it going, well, that was just kind of somebody that really is too much engrossed in art.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like an experiment in a lot of ways. It didn't, it wasn't what I was expecting at all. Maybe that's a good thing because, it's good from a director's point of view.
I reckon it's probably one of those movies that you watch it the first time and you're a bit like, huh? Sort of like Vanilla Sky.
Yeah.
But then maybe you watch it like the second time and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Or you'll pick up on something else. I might watch it again once it hits on demand just to see how I feel about it.
The process of the movie, the way that they styled everything, it seemed a little bit frustrating for me at first because in a way I wanted it to be real Soho in the 80s, but it wasn't because it was very theatrical almost. I mean, you could imagine it being on the stage.
Yeah.
In that sense, it frustrated me.
But they probably couldn't have got away with some of those really stylized shots, like when he's in his house, I think it's Essex, and they're set in the bright orange room, and the camera pans out.
That was very Trainspotting, wasn't it? Very Danny Boyle.
Yeah. So maybe they couldn't have gotten away with it if it was set in
a
realistic setting. But it did feel a bit stagey, especially the scenes in Soho where they're sitting on the roof, and and walking into like any seedy part of Soho, you'd never see like those four red boxes, Amsterdam style. That was a bit like, that's not really London Soho, but interesting interpretation of it. Maybe it was back in the day. I don't know.
Well, I suppose it's it's what's in your head, isn't it? If you kind of go with it and you think, oh, this is very very theatrical almost, I think you'll enjoy it more. But for me, I was kind of wanting it to be a bit more
I think realistic. The movie was sort of broken up into 3 different chapters and told like 3 different sort of stories. But then when it gets to the end, there's really not much of an end. It's just very anticlimactic, which I really don't like that.
Yeah. But would you have enjoyed it if Harris Dickinson wasn't in it? Because I don't think I would have done so much.
That's an interesting question. I have to say I probably would watch it. But the whole cast actually was pretty amazing. All the boys in it were fantastic. All the performances were very well done. Like I can't fault like anyone's performance in it. But I probably would have watched it.
So big question, $1 million question almost. Star rating.
It's going to be a 3 for me.
It's going to be a 3 for me too. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. It was okay, passed the time, but in a way only just because I wanted it to be a bit more engrossing.
Interesting though, because that film was chosen as one of the big galas for the BFI FLARE festival, but there's other films in the festival that were a bit more...
I agree. Better films that I enjoyed, actually. And Brian Robinson, one of the programmers there, actually introduced it as saying it was his favourite film of all time at the BFI FLARE. I couldn't quite understand that. It was, I was quite. I suppose it's personal opinion. Yeah, we will get him in for an interview. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us the thumbs up. And if you like this video, you might be interested to watch our review of Love, Simon, which is on the screen now. So take the link. See you next time.